Hello, welcome to the Powerfish Podcast. I am Ben.
And I'm Fish, and today we're going to be talking about monsters, but specifically stories we have about our personal experiences with monsters. But before we get into that, Ben was telling me that he saw an ad recently that really pissed him off, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing what that is all about.
So I saw an Apple iPhone ad, and as you'll come to know, I don't fancy Apple's marketing very much at all. I find their marketing very misleading, and maybe not misleading, but I find it aimed at simple individuals, to put it nicely. But anyways, rant aside, the commercial that I saw that just ruffled my jimmies was there was a woman who is standing in front of a projector screen, and she said that it's easy to transition into iPhone from Android. They were taking a stab at Androids here. And you know why? You can download apps from the App Store and sign into your old accounts, and everything will be there.
That is true anyway. That's true for any phone.
That is true of any device. Ever.
Let's expand it. Any piece of technology that interacts on an account basis interacts exactly that way.
Exactly. This commercial is a perfect example as to why I said that their marketing is targeted at simple individuals, because I would say the vast majority of phone users know that is that you can do that on any device ever.
That's
you just
hilarious.
Download the app, and to get all your stuff back, you sign into the app with your account. Wow, really? So easy. And then at the end, it transitioned into the tagline of "Relax, it's iPhone." Like, and you used to be an avid iPhone user alongside your entire family.
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
Listen. Okay, I don't want to hate on people that have iPhones, because iPhones are fine. They're great phones. They're the most popular phone in the United States, not by mistake. It's like I had an iPhone for several months to try it, and it's not for me. But like, it's not the product that I have a problem with. It's the company and how they market it, and honestly price it.
Yeah, I mean, okay,
because,
I will pricing it definitely. I mean, I would agree that it's not as good of a product at the price it is. I will say this: I work for a major communications company. There's a lot of rules about what I can and can't say on the internet. So, major communications company.
Seriously?
It's a thing. It is a thing.
I did not know that at all.
When you go through your 3-month training course, it's literally like headlines: do not disclose who you work for unless you are specifically promoting the brand. It is legit. So I don't now I can shit all over them all I want. It's fine. Just don't tell who I'm shitting on. Anyway, but anyway,
just real quick butt in here. Okay. I also used to work there, and I had no idea of that. So I definitely would have broken that rule at this point.
Well, I'm glad that I brought it up.
If I'm still working there.
I'm glad I brought it up in the first 10 minutes then. Before you said, "Hey, what happened at your job there?" And I'd be like, let's cut that. I don't want to, let's not do that. Yeah, ton of rules. Anyway, this has literally nothing to do with them. Just to say that I work for a major communications company, and I work with cellular technology, specifically smartphones, on a day-to-day basis. And I see the average consumer of iPhone. I think what it is that they're just used to the product that they have. I mean, that's what I hear from people. You know, we talk about different technologies that have emerged in the last 5 years, let's say, give or take 5 years. people are used to the technology that comes prepackaged in with their iPhone. And that is the phone that they have. So when I talk to people with my job, it's like, oh, I don't want to make a switch. I don't want to do that because I am used to the ecosystem that I was essentially born into. And it's a very kind of stuck in your way mindset, but I get it. I mean, and like honestly, you said,
when I worked,
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like you said a minute ago, I was that way up until a certain point. I mean, it took me working with technology on a day-to-day basis to realize that my piece of technology that I used on a day-to-day basis was not the best it could be. And that's what made me switch. But I mean, I can definitely relate to the feeling of being just used to a certain environment and that you use keeping with that environment, even if it's not by technicality the best of the products.
Right. And when I was working there, honestly, the same thing happens with people on Android, more commonly Samsung. There are people that don't want to deviate from a Samsung.
Yeah.
Which, just because that's what they're used to, that's what they're, born into, which I think anybody would argue that it's easier to transition from a Samsung to any other Android phone than it is across from an Android to an Apple and vice versa.
Relax. It's Apple. All right. Relax.
It's iPhone.
It's iPhone.
Relax.
It's iPhone. We've got.
You listen. If you need to transition, just download apps in our convenient app store. Revolutionary.
Yeah, that's
anyway.
Hilarious.
So I'm gonna get into my personal monster story.
I've been looking forward. So so you and I, when we talked about this topic, you said, I have this story, and don't you remember me telling you this story? And I said, no.
The reason I said that is because this story, this is so I don't even know what word I'm looking for here. It's such an important part of my life because of how terrified I was in the moment. And because of that, I've told it to pretty much everybody. And I have an audio clip of proof of this thing that I heard. And I thought that I have showed it to everybody. And nobody has been able to even remotely explain what it might be. Actually, that's not true. There is one exception of a guy that had a really pretty good idea, which we'll get into. But considering we've known each other and have hung out almost every day for the last 5 years, I thought that I would have showed you this.
Absolutely. But I have no idea what you're talking about.
That's mind blowing to me. So, let's see. Actually, let me open up the audio clip, and I'll talk about it while I'm looking for it. So, like 4 years ago, actually, no, it was longer than that. Probably like 5 or 6 years ago, I was playing video games in my room at I think it was 11:23 p.m. I was on a Discord call with my girlfriend at the time, and my window was open. It was in the summer, and I was on a call, and outside my window, I hear extremely loud, I don't even know what to describe it. A scream, a growl, I describe the sound as, I don't know if you've seen The Quiet Place or A Quiet Place, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Great movie.
The monsters in that is exactly what this sounded like.
They had like a oh, you're right. That's incredibly hard to describe. It's like a growl, but it's like a it's not like it's not like a natural animal growl. It's a very otherworldly kind of growl. I know.
Yeah,
I know the vibe you're talking about.
It does not sound natural. It does not sound like something biological from this world just made that noise. It doesn't sound like that. But like I said, there was one very convincing example that someone brought up when I was talking to somebody about this. So I'm going to play it now, and Fisher, I'm going to send this file to you over Discord.
Sick.
I just sent it to you, and I'm going to listen to it for everybody to hear.
Oh. Good job, Toggle.
Fuck was that?
What the hell?
The heck was that?
Yeah. Okay. So I just listened to it. Even my girlfriend on the call at the time, she obviously heard it too. So yeah, I have yet to explain what that was. And when I described it as loud, I don't know if you noticed, but I boosted the audio of specifically just the growl in that clip just to hear it more. But in person, it was excruciatingly loud. I describe it to people like when a siren is going off, you can pinpoint the direction that the sound is coming from, but it seems like it's kind of just coming from all around you, like it's kind of just engulfing your sound, engulfing your ears.
Yeah.
That's what this was like. It sounded like it came from all around me because it was that loud, but I knew it came from outside my window. It didn't sound like it was right outside my window, maybe like the backyard of the next door neighbor. Maybe.
Huh.
And yeah, I still can't figure out what that was. The next morning, I asked my mom if she had heard this because I was living with my parents at the time. And no, nothing. I thought something that loud would have woken up the city. But no, it didn't sound like it came from some speaker system outside somebody's backyard. I don't know why that would be the case anyway. But yeah, it's after I heard it, I was shaking after I listened back to it because as soon as that happened, I smashed my freaking record button and listened back to it, and I was literally terrified. I was like, what the heck is outside my house right now? I was literally mortified. But that was it. I didn't hear anything other than that, just that excruciatingly loud growl.
That's really weird. So when I listened to it, my first thought, and I don't know why this is my first thought was it sounded like some sort of large dinosaur. That was the vibe I got.
Yeah.
Like a large, I'm trying to even think of what in modern day, like a modern day animal would produce that sound similar to that of like a large, like a T-Rex kind of growl thing, scream, whatever you want to call it. That was what I thought, but I mean, clearly that's not it. I mean,
yeah, surely that's not it. There wasn't a dinosaur in downtown.
I wouldn't, it's not off the table, but like, it's unlikely, but I really don't know what that could be.
So one person I showed this to, he had the idea of it being, I think he said it was a potentially a dying moose.
A moose?
A dying moose, which I don't believe that, and he didn't really either, but he just related it to it could maybe be that sound, which, for context, where I lived at the time was the middle of a 50,000 population city downtown. Like it wasn't a moose.
Well, not only that, and I assume you mean...
Let alone a dying one.
Not only that, and I assume, you were here and we are in Western Illinois,
Yeah.
So I don't know how the moose population in the Midwest in general, but specifically this area, I don't think I've ever encountered a moose in this area.
Never seen a moose in my life.
Yeah, so I don't. I don't. It's a lot more plausible than a dinosaur. I'll give him that.
But still highly unlikely.
So highly unlikely, especially
And
for
also,
this area.
I don't know how loud a moose can get. Maybe it can get that loud. Honestly, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if a moose could scream that loud.
I'm just still trying to go through animals that could produce a sound that loud, let alone that kind of sound. And in our area, I think you're right. I don't think anything actually exists that would do that.
So I showed this to a few different people, couple of which were into like demons and crap. And I mean, I was open to the idea. One of them said, let's see, this is several years ago, but I believe one of them said that when you're the only one that can hear something like that, it can be like a mark or like a sign of something to come or something like that. And well, nothing came. So I definitely went to bed incredibly scared that night. But yeah, that's definitely the most unexplainable monster, supernatural, whatever story I've ever encountered, which is that's why it's even more fortunate that I got it in an audio clip.
Indeed. Well, let me ask you this. I mean, so you have something that you can't explain. Do you believe in monsters? Do you believe in the supernatural?
Do I believe it was something supernatural?
Yeah, or however you want to quantify something other than the natural world.
No,
which I guess
I don't.
by definition would be supernatural more than.
I don't believe that this instance. Right. I don't believe that this instance was. I don't think it was. I don't believe in supernatural things. I do think it is very exciting to not really pretend, but entertain the idea that something like that can exist, something supernatural.
Yeah.
Like ghosts or demons or whatever. This is the most compelling instance to push my belief in that direction. And I have had several friends that say that they were in the exact same position that I was in until they had one instance where it just couldn't be denied or explained away. Friends that I would have like no reason to lie, like ones that I trust. So like, I don't know. I really hope that something like that could be supernatural. I really hope that that's like that instance is, but I don't think so. I doubt it just because I don't believe in that.
Yeah. I mean, I would definitely consider myself a skeptic, and I think you're kind of in a similar boat. But you hear people all the time. I mean, like I go on different subreddits where they're talking about, there was one that I kind of got almost auto joined to, or I was recommended at a fast rate, but it was like, I think it was just r/ghosts. And these people 100% unequivocally, without a doubt, believe in ghosts. And it's not a question of are ghosts real? It's a question of, look at what is this ghost doing? Because that's a ghost. So, and I go on the subreddit and I'm looking at things, and there's nobody questioning anything. There's no question, like I said. And I'm looking at these clips and I'm like, that could be anything. I don't know. It could be edited, first of all. I mean, it is the internet, but I feel like there are other explanations, but at the same time, these are very real experiences for these people.
Yeah, but there's also people that would swear up and down with no convincing of any evidence ever that the earth is flat. Like, I don't see that as evidence. I don't see that as...
It's
unless they... Like I said, I have friends that are this type of person that you're describing. That, to me, anecdotally, is evidence. But looking at people on Reddit in mass quantities, that's not convincing to me.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider, like with the Reddit people, I wouldn't consider that evidence. I would consider that really more where I was going with that was there are just in general, there are people that really believe these things. So it's,
yeah,
I don't know. I guess I just wonder, as somebody that, like I said, I consider myself to be a skeptic, as somebody who feels that way, how do these people just have the faith they do? You know, it's just like,
probably because of one, either they grew up with parents and peers that did, and they just by extension also do, or two, that they experienced a moment or several that they, I guess, push them over the edge, so to speak.
yeah. Well, and on that note, what you just showed, I don't have an answer for. So that's an example of, how do you explain that? How do I, as somebody that's a skeptic, explain something that I've never heard before and you had never heard before, but you heard it?
Yeah. Maya heard it.
Yeah.
My ex, she was like just as confused as I was. She had no idea what it was in the moment either.
That's crazy.
I didn't know what to think.
That's when you know something supernatural, something that shouldn't be real but is happening. That's when it becomes real, is when somebody else sees it. Here in a little bit, I'm going to tell, I have a story ready to go as well. And it's another situation of, I had somebody with me and they saw the same exact thing as I saw it. But that's what I'm saying. Like when somebody you're with witnesses something crazy like that, it changes it. Cause I could be very, like I said, a skeptic. If I saw something crazy, I would very quickly in myself be like, I could explain it away. I could explain it away. I'm seeing things. This happened. Lack of sleep, whatever. But if somebody else steps in and goes, nah, that happened, and it happened exactly the way you believe it happened, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And yeah, having that second witness to say, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
Helped.
For sure. So I assume you've never heard anything like that since?
No, nothing even remotely as similar, nothing remotely as even loud, nothing even close. Nothing even close at all.
Yeah, on the recording, it definitely doesn't come through as loud. I'm taking your word for it. That it must have been loud in the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I boosted the audio in the recording. I was using a audio interface that does the same thing as this. It makes loud things quieter and quieter things louder. So I really wish it captured just how loud it was, because it was screwed up. When I listened to it back the first time, my hands started shaking and I genuinely started to cry a little bit because I was so scared.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't imagine actually being in that kind of situation. Hearing that. Well, I can't imagine actually. Like I said, I'm going to get to a story here in a minute where mine was visual. I actually did see something. But if it's as loud as you're describing, that would be terrifying.
Yeah, it was a shock. I still remember my first thought when it came, when I first heard the noise, I jumped and I thought it was a lion. I don't know why I went to a lion, but I thought it was a lion outside my window growling as loud as it possibly could. That's what I thought. And I still kind of thought that even a few moments afterwards until I recorded it and listened back. Then I realized, no, that's definitely something else.
Yeah, if we had a lion here, that'd be another problem. There's no zoo here.
Yeah, if there was also a lion downtown, we'd be in trouble.
Yeah, we got a whole other set of problems on our hands now.
But I mean, where does your mind go in that moment? Like when you experience that much shock in something that you've never heard or can't explain in that split second, like where does your mind go? It doesn't go somewhere rational. I thought it was a freaking lion.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you what, it's years later and over a recording, but I thought it was a dinosaur. I believed for a moment that you encountered a dinosaur. So that's where your mind goes. I had no doubt in my mind.
I've also heard some people have said that it's like a tire screeching against pavement.
Nah.
I didn't think that sounded quite. I didn't think so. Wasn't like high pitched enough.
I'm playing it back right now. I'm gonna listen to that again. There's no way. I mean, maybe.
Yeah,
but
I wasn't convinced on that one.
I mean, if it was a tire, let's just go down that rabbit hole a minute. If it was a tire, you would have to really be sliding. Specifically, you have to be sliding because that'd be a dragging sound, dragging the tire on the back. You would have to really be sliding, especially to get it that loud too.
Right. It had to be that, and it sounded like it came from the direction of my next door neighbor's backyard, which in that direction was towards the center of the block.
Yeah.
So it was not from a street close enough that could have invoked how loud it was.
Well, that's what I was just thinking. It's like, I know the area you're talking about. There's no, like, if you were like on a cul-de-sac or something and somebody was doing donuts on the cul-de-sac, like maybe, but there's not a place to really get that much momentum and turn out of a vehicle to dig into the ground that much to produce a sound of that high volume and screech.
Yeah,
I don't think so anyway. Crazy. Well, you have anything else to add about that story?
If anybody has any more ideas, feel free to share, please. I am highly interested in explanations.
I would be interested too.
So many years.
Yeah, you kind of pull the internet a little bit and try to see. I mean, I do think the tire is a possibility, but I just don't think it logistically
I think it's the most likely
sense.
one so far.
It's the only, like, other than the moose, I guess. The moose is a natural animal, but it's certainly not native to this area. And I feel like if the moose was dying, there would be a dead body, and on the news say, "Hey, there's a freaking moose over here." What?
And it probably would not have zero audio beforehand and zero audio afterwards. Like, it wouldn't have just been just that screech and then.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If anybody has any ideas on that, that is something else.
Please share.
Please share. So if you don't have anything else to add, I do kind of want to transition into a story that I have. And according to you, I haven't told you this story either.
No, I don't think you have.
Well, I'll open with the name. It's a little bit of a silly name, but I really enjoy the story, and I'm gonna go from the beginning to the end.
You named your story?
I have a title. You want to hear my title? All right. And I have a title because the person I was with and I shared the same experience, and we both were like 100% sure what we saw. But the title of the story, which is also the name we gave to the monster we saw, is The Buffalo Man. Don't you laugh. This is serious.
I'm here. You heard it here first. I'm naming my story The Dying Moose Man.
The Dying Moose Man. All right. This is the story of the Buffalo Man. I cannot believe I haven't told you this. I've told so many people. It's a great story because it's a frightening story. And it's like yours was the audio. You heard something. This is something I saw. So my friend Shannon and I were driving. I think we were going to pick up another friend. I think that's what was going on. This is years back. And we're driving down a gravel road. Pitch black. Absolutely. We're literally in the middle of nowhere. It is as dark can get. Just the moonlight.
What
and the
time
stars. Is it? At this point, it's hard to pinpoint because I don't remember. I know we were going to pick up a friend. I don't remember where we were going, but it was late. I want to say 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. In that kind of ballpark. It was very, very dark at the time. And we're driving down the road. I am in my a beautiful 1988 Cadillac DeVille. Love that car. We're driving down the road, gravel road. And I'm scanning the area because, it's gravel road. There could be deer, there could be whatever. Something walks. We're right next to a bunch of fields. So I'm kind of on high alert. And I look over in the field. Like I said, I'm driving. I look out the right side window, and I see what looks to me in the moment like a deer, a bigger deer than normal.
So you're looking outside across your passenger.
I was either looking directly across the passenger out the window, or just in front of them out the very far edge of the windshield. It was pretty much right beside us, almost directly beside us. Maybe 120 feet in the field, 150 feet, maybe 120 to 150 feet in the field, almost directly right of the car.
In the field. So you're in what kind of field? Like a cornfield.
So it's the gravel road, and then there's a large grass patch, and then it transitions into probably a cornfield. It was low. It was very low. I could see out there pretty much indefinitely. So if it was
like a harvested field.
Yeah, or something like that,
okay.
or whatever it was some kind of crop field, but there was a large grass patch between the gravel road and the field itself. And I want to say that this animal was either just a little bit into the field or still within the grass boundary there. But it was, like I said, 120 to 150 feet out. It was a long way, fairly long way. And I look out, and initially I think it's a deer, but it's bigger than a deer. It's bigger than any deer that I've seen.
Moose?
And it could have been a moose. It could have been the same night, for all I know.
It went. This thing moved from my neighbor's backyard and screamed, and then it ran over to wherever you at.
Well, listen, I'll tell you what. If it was the same thing, you better hope not, because this thing. Let me just get there. So big hulking thing standing out there, 120 feet in the field, whatever. My friend and I both see it, but we're just kind of like, eh. Just as I pointed out, that's a thing over there. Just as I pointed out.
That's what you said. What did you say? What was your pointing out words?
It was like,
I'm sure it wasn't. That's a thing over there.
I don't remember. I think I just pointed at it or something, like, oh, there's a like kind of like a, oh, see, there's a thing. Like, I don't know. I guess yeah.
When I see a deer. With a passenger, I was just like, "Oh, look at the deer."
Because I mean, at this point, nobody was alarmed. At this point, it's just that's slightly bigger than average deer, whatever. Didn't have the traditional antlers of a deer. It did have horns, but they were buffalo horns. I'm getting ahead of myself. So pointed out, and just as I pointed out, and we're both looking at it, it stands up on its back legs. Not like an animal might buck up on their back legs for a minute. Stands up like a man. Straight vertical.
So what orientation is it? Are you looking at it from a side view and you see it stand into a vertical line?
It itself is, we are facing the same direction. I am driving straight. It is looking straight down the road, but from its point of view, and it stands from a on all fours position to an upright position, and it's probably, again, this was a bigger than average deer as we thought, but once it stood up, it was probably about 10 feet tall, 9 to 10 feet tall.
Okay.
This thing was huge. Okay, this thing was huge, and simultaneously, again, I had a friend with me. Simultaneously, we both go, "What the fuck is that?" And just as I said that, it takes off running. So we're driving down the road, and I'm trying to describe this without visual cues, but we're driving down the road, and it doesn't run directly at the car. It runs at an angle towards the road, as if to cut us off and get out in front of the car to stop us.
Screw that, dude.
That's what I'm saying.
No.
Not directly at the car, but it knows it's got to get out in front. So we go, "What the hell is that?" It takes off running, and it's fucking fast, dude. It is so fast. And so Shannon's with me. She says, "Floor it." And I go, yep. So again, 88 Cadillac DeVille. It's a little old, but I'm legitimately pedal to the floor, legitimately. And we're going, again, gravel road. We're probably realistically going like 55, 60 miles an hour. And this thing's keeping up. I swear to God. And so, like I said, it was 120
Well, okay,
feet.
okay. How's it? Is it running like a human? Like one foot forward?
Once it stood up and then we saw it and took off running, it went back to all fours.
So it stood up.
And
then got back down and took off.
And then when it went into sprint, it was back down on all fours. Yeah, when it started the sprint, it was back down on all fours. But it was going way faster than any deer would go. I didn't have a freaking speed gun on me. I don't know exactly how fast it was going, but I know we were going fast and it was keeping up and surpassing. So
I don't know how fast a bear can run, but that sounds like it could be a bear.
It wasn't, well, I guess bears come in all sizes. I was going to say, it wasn't thick enough to be a bear. Let me actually back up just a minute. Let me describe what we saw when it stood up, because that might give you a better picture. This was the best view we had of it for like identification purposes. Because after that, it was in full sprint at God knows how many miles per hour. You know, can't see much after that. So when it stood up, here's what we saw. We saw a large head and like I said, it stood up like a man. It didn't have the body of a man. Like it didn't have like
a large bowl-shaped head.
So going back, we called it the Buffalo Man,
or Buffalo.
We called it the Buffalo Man. Really, when I went back after the fact, what I saw was the head of a bison, which is not technically a buffalo, but that's just what we called it. I saw the head of a bison, but a long humanoid body with incredibly long limbs. We're talking like
how like relaxed arms. Where does his hands hit, or it's whatever pause? Fuck, you know.
I would say mid thigh comes down. Well, no, that's not. It comes down. I'm trying to relate this to my own body, but this had a very different body to the way we have bodies. It was, I would say maybe like halfway down its legs. Like if it was 9 feet tall, its arms were 4 to 5 feet long ish, roughly. Very.
Did it look like it had, this is in pitch black darkness, right?
This is mostly dark, illuminated by moonlight. This is
with no obstruction because it's an open field.
Correct. Yeah, just grass, just tall grass is all that's in there. It stands up, got to be at least 9 feet tall. I was thinking 9 to 10, and I don't know the exact figure. It looked like it had incredibly long limbs. Like I'm trying to think of an example, but it's just not coming to me. But yeah, like a long limbs, and then it took off running after that.
So it wouldn't really describe a bear because that's got short.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
And you said it was like skinny?
It wasn't thick like you would think an animal of that size to be. I'll say that.
Did it look like it had, could you tell if it had hands? Like what was,
to be honest,
pause?
So to be honest, I was just looking up because I remember making this comparison at the time, but this was a long time ago and I haven't really thought about this in a long time, but I'm sure you remember the Slender Man.
Of course.
And the Slender Man traditionally had very long arms, and it was it was Slender Man. He was slender. That was, I mean, obviously, Slender Man body is directly humanoid. You know, very much human-esque. Other than those features, this wasn't quite human-esque, but that was roughly the proportions. Thin body, very long arms, like
with a bison head.
With a large head that to me resembled a bison. It had the shorter, but still had horns like a bison has. Thick, big. It was too dark to tell like fur or anything, but I would imagine there was fur if I had to take a guess at it. So yeah, no, we saw this thing. We both saw this thing, and then it comes running.
So it's running in a direction that would s- get closer to you.
Yeah, intentionally closer. Absolutely.
That's also not very wild animal like,
No, because most animals would run away.
especially in a way that would block your driving.
I mean, you would think. I mean,
Direction.
potentially something like a deer. You know, deer jump out on the roads all the time. But like I said, first of all, deer don't stand up like that, and deers aren't that big. Deer aren't that big, and. I keep doing the incorrect plural there. They're not. Listen, grammar's not a strong suit. They're not that big. And they don't have limbs that are that long. You know, and again, that's what I saw. And also their heads aren't that big. You know, I don't know what we saw, but yeah, we're like I said, we're going. I would say 55, 60 miles an hour because we were probably starting out at 30, 35. And we probably bumped it up to 60, 65, wherever, 55, 60, wherever it was, and it was keeping up to the point where it was. I said it started in the field. We'll call it 120 feet. It had gotten to within 30 feet of the car. It was very close. It was very close.
At this point, what does it look like?
At this
or
point,
were you even paying attention?
At this point, I'm
to anything other than the road.
I did look out. It was very low to the ground, if that makes sense. Like it was, how animals can be when they're in full sprint. They're just kind of very duck down, sprinting fast kind of thing. Aerodynamics, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, it was very low to the ground. It was very dark. I couldn't see much. I still saw long limbs. I still saw long body. Still saw a large head. That's all I saw there. But it was keeping up at 60 miles an hour. We'll guess 60. It was keeping up at 60 miles an hour to the point where it was definitely it was within 30 feet of the car and just next to or maybe slightly in front of the car. At that point,
and then what happens?
At that point, there is a tree line in between the gravel road and where this thing is. We split off from the tree line, and it doesn't come out the other side. We lost sight, and it didn't come out the other end.
Yikes, dude.
So, like I said, we're going to pick up a friend, and they're just literally like, a mile up the road from there. And we get there, and it's like, what is that? What happened? And that's where it's like, oh, it looked like it had this or this, and it had the head of what I call at the time a buffalo. Like I said, I think it's more closer to a bison. But it's like, oh, it's the buffalo man. Okay, cool. That's really terrifying. Didn't see it on the way back. That is something I cannot explain. I don't know of a thing that stands up to be that tall. I don't know in this area. I don't know of a thing that stands up and is that tall. I don't know a thing that can run as fast as that ran, and I don't know of a thing that has the body proportions that thing had. So when I was talking to my friend about this recently, because we talked about we were gonna tell monster stories, and I reached back out to her and I said, hey, this is a traumatic event for the both of us, but I want to talk about it. I want to gather your opinion on this. She's like, okay, and we talked about it, and she said that I think it was Navajo folklore. There exists
Navajo
with a J, Navajo, Navajo.
Okay.
In their folklore, there is what they would call we know it as well, a skinwalker. And that was her thought.
I've heard of that.
That's a fairly universal concept, but that is definitely present in, like I said, Navajo folklore from the research that I've done. And the theory that she had, and it kind of makes a lot of sense, is that that's what this thing was. This thing was a skinwalker of whatever animal it was emulating, whether that be a bison like I saw, or maybe that's just what I saw and it was this a skinwalker of something else, but it just had longer limbs. I don't know. That's the only other thing I can think of. Other than
what is this? Describe a skinwalker.
so it's very, very basic research that I've done, and by research I mean a Google search. Which is research. What I've come up with is it's an entity that possesses the body of an animal or a dead animal or whatever. From stories that I've read about or pictures that I've seen, the bodies oftentimes are deformed in some way, which would get you, incorrect proportions, longer limbs, things like that. The bodies can be often deformed, but it is essentially a dead animal that is possessed by a spirit.
It's like a parasite.
In a way, I would say. But, a supernatural parasite, yeah.
What do you think?
So, there was one other theory, before I go into what I think, there was one other theory that I heard that makes sense geographically, but...
Where were you again?
We were here. So this would,
okay.
again,
so
Western
Midwest Illinois.
Yeah. And the other theory that I heard was it could be Momo the monster. I don't know if you've ever heard that. Momo the monster.
That sounds like Momo. That sounds like some supervillain from a kids show.
It might be. No. Okay, so Momo the monster is a monster that from what I understand with my Google searches, the story originated in Louisiana, Missouri.
That's just south of us.
That's very close. Momo the monster is kind of more along the lines of a Bigfoot type creature. But with the distinction that it has a very big head. Like I said, I saw a big head. The only thing that makes me think that it's not Momo, there's two things. The other thing that makes it similar is that it also has very long arms, which is what I think I saw. The things that make me think it's not Momo the monster is that, one, Momo is an ape-like creature, like Bigfoot. I don't feel like that's what I saw. And the other thing is that it wouldn't run on all fours. And this thing ran on all fours. When it went into sprint, it stood up, not on its legs, upright. But then when it went into full sprint, it was on its all fours. Momo the monster would not do that. That is a purely, from what I understand, an upright only creature. Unless I'm mistaken there, but I don't believe I am. So those are the reasons that I don't think it's Momo. But that would make a lot of sense. Again, that's another
some matching.
That's some matching elements, and definitely makes sense geographically, being so close to its origin.
Yeah, that is odd. That how just Louisiana, Missouri is about an hour south of us, so that's
yeah. It's totally not
unreasonable
to think. So that's an.
But
option.
Here's the thing. Here's where it becomes unreasonable. This is folklore.
Yeah,
it's presumably not real.
Yeah, it circles right back around to something that you can't explain, but you're asked to explain it anyway. So it's like, and like I said, I don't think it's a deer. I don't think it's a bear. Better not have been that freaking moose again. I don't.
That freaking moose, bro.
Freaking moose, bro. It got me too. No, I don't think it's any of those. So what it be? And that's where you start going, well, could it be something like a skinwalker? Could it be something like this ape-like creature? Maybe I just didn't, maybe I misremember it.
Would you even describe that? Let's entertain that what happened to you and I both was something in our current knowledge base indescribable. Would you even say that it necessarily has to be supernatural? Or would you just say it could have been something that hasn't been discovered? I mean, I'm sure you've heard the phrase that the phrase is missing me now, but basically it's saying that what we see as magic now is science in the future.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think this thing was from another planet. I don't.
Right.
the question becomes: is it in some way linked or bound to our planet's biology, or is it?
Yeah.
Does it exist in some sort of spirit realm? I think that's the question, because I don't believe it's an alien. I don't believe
mine was either.
I'm just about to say, I don't think either of our stories was some kind of alien. So is it a spirit origin, or is it a biological origin that we just don't understand or can't relate to? But the thing is if it's bound by biology, what is it derived from?
And why was it in my neighbor's backyard?
And why was it in your neighbor's backyard? Does your neighbor know something? Next week on the podcast, we interview the neighbor.
No. Yeah, and this is not like me to do, I was really close to going over to the neighbors and asking them, like, hey, did you hear this last night? Like, do you know what this is? I didn't do it on behalf of me probably sounding like a idiot. But what I didn't think of at the time is to play the audio file for them. So in hindsight, I absolutely would have gone to the neighbor's house and asked them if they had heard anything.
Yeah. I mean, that really would have maybe opened up the door to something, especially if it came from the backyard, as you think it did, you know?
It sounded like it came from that direction.
Kind of speaker system y'all got up in here. Why is it playing monster noises into my bedroom window?
And why is the government not confiscating it and using it as a freaking nuke siren?
Freaking nuke siren. Yeah, dude. I don't know, man. That's something else. And with mine, you know, there was nobody to bounce a second opinion off of with my story. I mean, we were literally in the middle of nowhere. You know, it's gravel road, middle of nowhere. There's not a house a mile back or a mile forward. Probably, honestly, in that area, probably a couple miles, two or 3 miles, maybe. I mean, it's very sparse out there. And that was a
yours
long
sounds
road.
more typical in terms of a scary story, like out in the middle of nowhere, dark. You know, it's late. There's no one to witness.
Yeah.
Mine seems pretty, not that either one of them are any more or less unexplainable than the other, but mine seems pretty almost irrational, and like scary noise alone, it just makes no sense as to why it was in the middle of a city. Like, the location makes no sense. The freaking time makes no sense. Nothing about it makes any sense at all.
Yeah, I've got absolutely no ideas.
Yeah.
Other than the freaking moose. That's what I'm thinking.
It's the moose. It died in my neighbor's backyard, and then after it died, it just moved over to... No. It died in my neighbor's backyard, being killed by a skinwalker that then ran over to your place.
Yeah, that's got to be it. And to
and
be
then
honest,
it turned in, and instead of a moose, it was a bison.
I think that's what I saw. I remember it had a I don't know if you looked up a picture of a bison in the process, but I'm pulling it up now. I mean, when you look at a picture of a bison, it has a large round head and horns. That's what it has, and that's what I saw. But not. I don't feel like it was necessarily long horns like a buffalo has, like I claimed it to be originally. It wasn't, though, because buffalo have like very wide horns. This was long but shorter, more contained. But it had that furry looking, I assume furry, but round, big, bulbous head. But that was the head. The body was tall, humanoid-esque, long limbs. Which you find me an animal that matches that description, I'd be impressed.
Yeah.
And like I said, I had a friend with me. We both saw it, and when I called her a couple days ago to kind of see what she thought about it and maybe kind of give me some feedback, not only did she have some theories on it, And not only did she say it's still a traumatizing experience, it's not something that like we thought we saw in the moment and then she forgot about it. It was like a oh no, that's still something very scary that happened to us. Not only those two things, but we talked about it and she confirmed not only did we see them, but it happened the exact same way for both of us. There was no exaggeration here or exaggeration there. It happened the exact same way for the two of us. And that is strange. And that,
that's the part that's strange.
That's, I mean, the 10-foot tall bison monster man, long arms, is pretty strange in and of itself. But then you get into the account that not just one person saw it, but two people saw it in the same way at the same time. I mean, that's just.
And yeah, honestly, it's funny that we both had one other mutual co-friend that went through the experience with us, and it was equally as confused in both scenarios. That's just more validating.
I love the term co-friend. I'm gonna start using that.
Yeah, I wasn't really looking for that word. I was looking for co.
One day
what I should have just done is left the co out, just friends, and we'll go from there. I don't know where the co came from or where I was planning on going with it, but it didn't work.
I'll tell you what, so I aspire one day to be a co-friend. I aspire. That's my aspiration. It's my New Year's resolution. I'm going to be your co-friend.
Yeah, what would that even mean? You got co-worker, which like person that does the same occupation as you. So what would co-friend be? What is that? What does that look like?
A dumb phrase.
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. It would be somebody that it does friendship with you. Not your friend, but they do friendship with you. They are a co-collaborator on friendship.
So like an acquaintance, probably.
But it's better. In my mind, it's better than an acquaintance.
But they aren't your friend.
I think you rank up. So it's a rank system, right? You start with, I don't know you, right?
Yeah.
Base
level.
Who you
level
is.
1.
Level 2, you step up into acquaintance, right? And then step 3 after acquaintance is going to be co-friend. That's your co-friend. All right. You're not friends, but you participate in friendship adjacently. All right. Next level. Now you're at the friend status. Okay. Things are heating up.
Where does coworker land in that hierarchy?
Oh, that's a good question, actually.
I think there could be a separate hierarchy for coworkers.
I think there could be. If you're trying to slot it into the existing list that we're making for some reason, this is a weird rabbit hole to go down. But if you're trying to slot coworker in, I think it comes between acquaintance and co-friend. That's where I'd put coworker.
Okay, I think I would agree with that.
You level up. See, it's a co-level up. You level up coworker to co-friend because you can have a coworker that's your co-friend, but your other coworkers are not on that same level. That's a step.
What kind of activities do you do with it? So from coworker to co-friend.
Dumbest conversation ever, but I'm all for it.
from coworker to co-friend, coworker and acquaintance, or I would describe acquaintance and co-worker mixed into one, a work friend, which someone that you're probably friends with, but you never interact with or do anything outside of the workplace. So co-friend from co-worker, the transition in between those two would look like you're moving into things outside of work, but you're not doing things that you would do with your friends.
Hold on, I got it. Hold on. So wait a minute. I got it. All right, here we go. I got it. So a co-worker, you are bound by work, but you're not friends. right? A work friend is bound to work, but there's a friend element. A co-friend is similar along those lines, and there's a friend element, but you are not exclusively friends, but you're in the early stages, but it's not necessarily work related or doesn't have to be, and then you're a friend. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think that hierarchy slots well.
That helps absolutely nobody. But
you don't know.
You know what? I'll say this. This is a whole other kind of rant to go on anyway, another ramble to go on. But there are those people that you just don't know where to categorize. Because as humans, that's kind of the natural thing. You put people in a category, you put people in a box. That's the natural thing you do as a person.
Right.
And sometimes it's like, are they just a coworker? Are they a friend's friend? So we have a mutual friend, but me and this other person don't connect. And
that would probably fall under acquaintance.
But you
think?
I think actually that relationship I just described, I think more closely fits co-friend, because you are not friends by necessity, but you are participating in friendship. And I'm meaning more specifically mutual friends, but you still hang out together. That's what I'm saying.
I think that's exactly what a co-friend is.
I think we've hit the nail on this unnecessary nail on the head now. We got a stamp of approval.
You hit the nail on the unnecessary head nail. Yep.
Exactly. Head. That's where I'm going. Yeah. So I think it's a friend of a friend that you spend time with, but you're not friends with them. But in a way you are, but you
co-friend.
You co-friend, you collaborate on friendship, but not specifically friends. You're not friends.
Which they often, I would say, get promoted to friendship status in most cases. So where would you slot like somebody that you definitely were friends with or used to interact with all the time, but let's say they moved away and now you guys like text every like year or something? What's that? Would you say just you're still friends, but
so where's the starting
interact?
point? Where's the starting point? Like that's the thing. Are we starting at best friend status? Are we starting at friend status? Where's your starting point?
Well, I'll give a personal example. So let's say like Kale, best friend status for up until my early teenage years, or it might have even been earlier than that. But he has years and years and years ago moved away, and obviously we still keep in contact every year or so. And he came from best friend status. Where is he right now? Where in the hierarchy? Where is he at?
That's a tough status to fall from, because it's like, yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one to fall from if you fall from it at all. I don't have a personal...
in my mind, I haven't categorized him, but in my mind, it's just been automatic. Oh yeah, he's my best friend. Yeah. Like I've never deviated from that because I've never put any thought into it until now. For some reason.
I mean, that's interesting. I was just trying to think of like, do I have a similar example that I can relate to, and maybe I could bounce the opinion off of how I feel about it. I don't have a similar example. I've had plenty of best friends over time, but I never kept in contact with them. You know, it was in school, and then they moved away, or they moved to a different school, or I moved to a different school or away or whatever. I don't know if I've ever been in a situation like that. I mean, the only real friend that I've kept in contact with from like early days, like that has all that time behind it, is Shannon, the girl from this story. But she was, back in the day, she wasn't my best friend either. You know, we're very, very close friends now, closer than we were back then. But, you know, I had other friends at the time, and this is that. And it's, but as far as like your situation, If you
Yeah, no, I grew up with him. We've known each other basically since birth. Like, yeah, he's in best friend status since I could speak or even think words. And even though the past like 10 years have most certainly not looked like what best friends would do, in my mind, every time I think of like the category that he's in, it just is like, oh yeah, he's my best friend. And then if someone like brings him up, or if I have a story, I just always say like, yeah, me and my best friend, did this XYZ, whatever, how long ago. It's like, it's never deviated from that.
I mean, I can tell you personally, let's say if I was in your position, I think there'd be a demotion, but that's me. I think personally, if I was in that same exact situation and I still kept in contact, but it was incredibly infrequent. When you're in contact, it's great, but it's infrequent. I would probably prioritize who's present, because, and here, let me give you an example on that. So back when I was in school, I was like really, really close with this dude named Matt. Matt and I all the time got along great. Some shit happened with his family, some weird issues, and he ended up getting pulled out of school indefinitely. I don't know what happened to that guy, actually. No clue. We kept in contact for a while over text, but he was gone. Like, he was out of there, and the text became infrequent, and it ended up being like, you know what? This guy isn't my best friend anymore. We still talk at the time, not anymore. We still talk regularly, I suppose, but I am more close to this other friend now. Like, it was funny because it was kind of like it was actually like a rank system almost. It was like we had a friend group. We had a friend group of like maybe 3-4 dudes, and then the one who was my best friend left, and it was like next in line. And I mean, I would never personally feel about it that way. Like, it's not like I'm like, right next on the conveyor
your
belt.
Friends into a promotion system.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I would never do that. But I mean, it really was a situation where it was like, this guy's gone, and these people are honestly taking up the mantle of that slot in my life. We are now spending more time together because I'm not spending time with this person. It was really that way. So to go back to your story, if I was in that situation, I think it would be a hard decision. And again, I mean, this is the thing, is it doesn't actually need a decision. It's
yeah, there's no decision. There's nothing being impacted by making slots in your mind where you put friends on a hierarchy. Like, that's not a decision. That's yeah.
Unless you're a woman. Let me say this. Let me back up. Okay, let me back up. That was a little aggressive right out of the gate. I'm going to reel it back in a little bit.
Unless you're a woman.
Listen, I don't know if you've noticed this phenomenon, but, and this is my opinion, this is my take. There is no kind of person that does this kind of slotting of people or categorization of people like women do. I swear to God.
I agree.
It's very much like, and I'm thinking back to like, high school, college, I'm thinking back to that realm. I don't have very many women friends right now, not for any reason other than I'm in a relationship and don't feel the need to go fraternize with a bunch of women all the time. That's the only reason, not that I have anything against women, but all that out of the way, don't cancel me. All that out of the way, disclaimers out of the way. I love women. My favorite people are women. No, with all that out of the way, from what I remember about being very close friends with women, predominantly actually back in high school, college, that was very much, people would come up to me and be like, you are this friend. You are my favorite male friend. You are my best male friend. You are my,
Women have a lot of best friends.
So this is a funny story. There was a girl that I was friends with, and I've always been a thick dude, especially at that time. I was a thick boy, And this girl came up to me, and I had known her for a long time, and she came up to me and she said, you know, you're my favorite fat friend. You're my best fat friend. And I said,
wow, what a category.
I said, thanks. I mean, was there a lot of runners up or like... But I mean, it was just really like that. And it was very much, when I would talk to them, they're like, oh, that's my best friend. Or this is my, and okay, this might be a per person basis. I mean, I'm sure this is not how every woman feels. I'm sure. But there was one girl I knew that literally had like chairs. I mean, it was literally like, this is my best friend. Next up, this friend. And next up, this friend. One friend goes out, the other slot up.
Yeah.
Women,
I agree. That I think they can have another thing I've noticed is they have a lot of best friends. Like a woman has said, oh yeah, he's my best friend. And then I hear them over time say that very phrase of several different other people. And I'm like, that's not how I work. I have, honestly, I don't even say I have one. I don't really, like there's Kale, who I've always just said he's my best friend. But I mean, I have other friends that I value just as much as Kale. Like I don't really have the hierarchy thing.
Yeah, and that's,
I don't have slots.
Yeah, I mean, we went through this entire conversation of how do you do a hierarchy, what the hierarchy is. But I mean, I'll say I'm the same exact way. I don't really have a best friend because to me it doesn't necessarily matter. I mean, the person I spend the most time with is my closest friend, and that's the way it is. It doesn't have to be a ranking system by necessity. I mean, it can be helpful to, if you want to map out your priorities or the amount of time you spend here versus there. I mean, it could be helpful to put that into a mental category, but I don't. But
another thing is, women often have a lot more friends too.
That's true. I think I think
they have a lot more friends that also don't mean a lot.
Okay.
As in like they have more friends, and sure they have plenty of friends that have really meaningful relationships and mean a lot to them. But I feel like they have a lot more friends that we would probably put in the acquaintance category or co-friend category.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a woman. I don't have a woman brain. I really couldn't speak too much on it, but I do feel like I've seen that. That's something. It's one of those things where, is that just my own personal, and I guess your own personal experience? Is that actually true of the average woman specifically? I don't know. And I would say, as far as like friends go, I mean, men can have a lot of friends. It depends on the type of man, but I feel like men generally, more often than not, have the 1 to 2, 2 to 3 really, really close friends, and then everybody else. And then women have like a whole bus full of friends that they could do with, but a lot of them they're not truly close with.
And I think, this I actually don't really know on. This could just be you and me, but I think they have more friend groups, more friend huddles. But I don't know. Men might do that too, but you and I, that's not really the case. So from our personal anecdotal experience, as far as I'm aware, men don't have friend groups as much as women do.
Yeah, I think so. It's a different way of doing friendship, right? I think some people do it to the point where it's like you have a couple of really close friends and you do everything with them. If you explore a hobby, you explore it with them. That's kind of the way we are a lot of the times. It's like we do things together, whether that be technology or doing things like this or sports or whatever it is. You know, we do those things together and we expand and broaden horizons, whatever it is. But then there's those other kinds of people that do friendship a different way, where it's like, I do this thing and then I have friends that do this thing. And then also over here in this other realm of my life, I do this thing and have those friends over there as well. And it's very segmented. The groups don't mix hardly at all. You might have one friend that crosses over, but that's not often. That is very different from the way I do friendship. Very different.
I think predominantly males build friendships based on mutual activities. I think females build friendships in general. Obviously there's exceptions to everything, but in general I think females build friendships off of mutual similarity, maybe mutual emotion,
sure,
rather than mutual activity, because there's a lot of dudes that there's a lot of dudes that have friends that are only their friends because they do the same thing that they do. They have a mutual activity that they do together, and they don't hang out outside of that. I think women in general have friends that would come over just to, I don't know, talk rather than come over for the sole intent of doing a mutually enjoyable activity.
Yeah, I could see that. I definitely had several women friends that did that. Like, well, let's just have a phone call and just talk for 2 hours. You know, I can't do. I used to be able to do that a lot more, but anymore,
bold of us to say on a podcast that we can't just have a phone call.
Yeah. I mean, we have those kind of conversations. I will tell you though, it's difficult for me to have sustained conversations with just anybody. Like, I can't just pull aside, like, I got a good friend, Ryan. Like, Ryan and I can't just like sit down and have a long drawn out conversation about just anything. I don't have that relationship with that person. As an example.
I think that's, see, I could do that. I can talk to probably any average Joe and talk to them for 2 hours. In fact, I have done that. There's a friend that I used to work with. Her name's Lauren, and I hadn't talked to her in over a year. And there was something that happened at work. I just wanted to connect with her, and so I shot her a message, and we met at a coffee shop, and we hadn't talked in forever, and honestly we weren't even much more than acquaintances at work, but we talked for almost 4 hours. Good and it was God. Easy. But it's easy to do that because for the very reason that we didn't really know each other.
Yeah. Well, okay, so let me go back to my previous statement, and I want to clarify it. So I guess it depends on what I'm talking about. So like, if like one of my friends, like Ryan, like any of those people in that friend group that I have, if it was something like a mutual topic or like a work related something, because that particular friend I work with him, then probably. I mean more along the lines of like how we do sit down, have a conversation about really something random generally. So some random kind of conversation, like how do you categorize friends? That's an example.
Yeah.
That's not a conversation I think I could have long term with somebody unless I know them a lot more closely than I know these other friends in my life. So it's like a how close I am with this person, or how long have I known this person, and how often do we have these deep, rich conversations? And if it's not long enough, or it's not long enough to really know this person enough to have these conversations, I find it very difficult. Very difficult to stay on a topic like that. More and more one, especially that's more, especially when it's more serious topics.
Yeah, you also don't know how. Like we can have a conversation about almost anything under the sun and make it last however long we really want it to last. But you also don't know, if you're talking to somebody that you're not as close as we are with, that they probably wouldn't be willing to entertain an hour-long conversation about something as worthless as categorizing friends. Like, which honestly, good on them for not wasting their time, but like, some people might not value that
Yeah, there's
as much as we do.
There's always that stigma of like, am I boring them, kind of a thing. Do they want to leave and I just haven't picked up on that yet, kind of a thing. Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, like I said, that is very different than the topic we had planned out, but we definitely used the time to talk about it.
Yeah. So let's wrap this up. Let us know what you guys think. Tell us your scary monster stories, because I want to read them. I'm interested. I would encourage explanations on either of our monster stories too, because, explanations would be great. We are, because we're out of them. So,
I mean, I went through everything I thought, and I will say on top of that, again, I didn't expect us to go down the rabbit hole we went down, but how do, I would want to see comments like, how do people think about friendship? Is there a hierarchy? Is it just a random group?
Yeah,
is
honestly.
it just a gathering? How do
Let
you,
us know
how
about
do you
that.
categorize that?
Are we anomalies in that we don't really see friendships in categories other than very broad ones like coworkers, acquaintances, and friends? I'm curious. Let us know.
Thanks for listening. We'll probably do this once a week, I would imagine, but stay tuned. We'll be doing more. Peace out.
Bye, everybody.